Conference championship weekend is in the books, and the only question left to be answered, who will be in the college football playoff? Going into conference championship weekend, we knew it was win and you're in the Mountain West championship game between UNLV and Boise State, as winner of that game would represent the group of five in the college football playoff. In the Big 12 championship game between Iowa State and Arizona State, whoever won that game would represent the Big 12 in the college football playoff. And it was win and you're in the ACC championship game between Clemson and SMU, despite the opinions throughout the week on social media, as it was about half and half on opinions on whether it was a must win for SMU or not. I saw some people talk about how SMU would be in no matter what, SMU would be in no matter what, unless they lost by 3 possessions or if it became a runaway game for Clemson. I felt like going into the week, I did think that if SMU did lose the ACC championship game, they would be left out of the playoff. And the reason why I felt that way and why I still feel this way is I do have to be open and honest about it. I did want to make a statement during the SEC championship prediction segment of the Week 15 predictions video. I had a strong feeling that they were going to have Georgia win the SEC championship game as a justification to put Alabama in the college football playoff, because now with Georgia winning the SEC championship, Alabama has the argument of the SEC is the toughest conference in all of college football, and Alabama has the head-to-head win over the SEC champion. And there was a comment that a few hours ago was placed in the Week 15 college football predictions video, and I'm going to read it. It was from Jamie Niemeyer. I hope that's the correct pronunciation of the last name, but Jamie is in my comment section just about every week. And what was mentioned is, when it comes to the playoffs, they're just looking at the brand and the top dogs in college football. And if you're not a brand school, you are just screwed out of it. And that is the case. It really is all really just a selection. It's not necessarily who's deserving of it. Because ever since the college football playoff was even implemented, there's been controversy. The first year that we had it, it was very controversial, as Ohio State, they were the last team in instead of TCU, who many felt like should have been in the playoff that year. And then a few years later, there was more controversy as the debate was between Ohio State, Alabama. Then I believe the next year it was Ohio State or Oklahoma. And just last year, it was who'd be the fourth team in. Would it be Florida State or Alabama? And Florida State, despite what they did, going undefeated, winning your conference championship, being undefeated, they were left out of the playoff in favor of Alabama. Which, that didn't make sense to me, but I expected it to happen. And they had the reason of, well, Florida State just isn't the same team without their starting quarterback, even though the first year we even had the college football playoff, the committee put in Ohio State, who was down to their third string quarterback, and they ended up winning the national championship. And some people may say it's a bad comparison, but that's exactly what happened. But seeing the ACC championship game tonight, it was looking like a Clemson runaway game. They were up by 17 in the fourth quarter. But then SMU, they made a late rally to tie the game. But then Clemson has a long kickoff return. It sets up an opportunity to make one quick pass to try to get into a reasonable field goal range. And then Clemson, with a freshman kicker, absolutely nails a 56-yard field goal to put Clemson in the playoff. And besides the order of the rankings, or I should say the seedings, who is going to be that final team in? Will it be Alabama or SMU? And there has been a lot of mixed feelings about it, not only ever since the ACC championship game ended, but throughout the week. I would say that SMU, I do feel like they have the argument to belong in the college football playoff. Considering the fact that they did make it to their conference championship game, and Alabama, they have 3 losses on the year, but I think what is going to be considered justification to put Alabama in the playoff is the head-to-head win over SEC champion Georgia. And I know Alabama would probably beat SMU pretty convincingly head-to-head. But here's my thing. With controversy already in this 12-team format, it's inevitable where the playoff eventually goes to 16 teams. And honestly, maybe 15 years from now, I would not be surprised if we had a 24-team playoff. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised. Because they're going to keep expanding this playoff. Because they know that you get a lot of money and revenue out of it. And that is what happens when you live in a country that makes everything about money and revenue. So if I had to guess, I do think Alabama will be that final team in. Despite SMU playing a close game, they made the game closer than what it was looking like it was going to be. As seeing Clemson in the first quarter, it looked like it was going to be a runaway game and SMU was going to lose by 30 even with the way the game was going. But then they rallied to potentially send it to overtime. But Clemson, they took advantage of the 56-yard field goal opportunity and won themselves in the playoff. And no matter what happens, the committee is going to be caught in 4K. Because if you put in Alabama over SMU, they're basically saying, well, conference championships, they don't really mean that much, and we're going to see teams maybe intentionally avoid it. Avoid conference championship games if they can. That if you're sitting at maybe 10-1 going to the final week, maybe they don't want to be there. If you put in SMU over Alabama, they have the better strength of schedule. They have the better victories. You're basically saying that beating superior competition does not matter too much. So either way, the committee, they were hoping that Clemson would have either made it a runaway game or SMU would have won the game and there'd be no questions about it. But as far as seedings are concerned, it's obvious Oregon will be the 1 seed. 2 seed will obviously be Georgia. But the 3-4, that is going to be 3-4 are going to be a serious question mark. Because did Clemson do enough to earn themselves a bye? I think Boise State's at 3, Arizona State's at 4. That's how I have it. I do think they will put Texas as the 5th seed. I have that feeling. Then I think 6 will be Notre Dame. But the question is, who gets the 7th seed? Will it be Ohio State or Penn State? Which I do think that if they truly are honoring head-to-head, then they would give the nod to Ohio State as the 7th seed. Then Penn State would be 8. And then Tennessee, I think, would be the 9 seed. Then Indiana, the 10. And I know that the committee doesn't want to more than likely have conference matchups in the first round, but looking the way the bracket is probably going to look, they may not have any other choice. At least in my mock bracket, I have Indiana, Ohio State in the first round as the 7-10 matchup. And then the 11 seed, it's going to be whoever they decide between SMU, Alabama, or even Clemson. Because if it's SMU that they pick or Alabama, then SMU will be the 12 and Clemson will be the 11. But if they pick Alabama, I do think they would put Alabama at 11, and then Clemson would be 12. But comment your thoughts down below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, Vegas is always watching,